have mortgage insurance built into the payment, which is going to affect how much you can afford, okay? And so with conventional loans, the cool thing about it is that they actually give you mortgage insurance options so that you can lower your mortgage payment. Okay? So basically what a lot of lenders don't let you know is that there's 4 different mortgage insurance options with conventional loans. Anybody who knew about the 4 options on mortgage insurance? Nobody. Nobody's raising their hand. You all heard about the monthly mortgage insurance though that's built into those payments, right? Okay. You have monthly, which we all know about. Split mortgage insurance, which basically what that is you do a one-time fee up front, and it lowers significantly, usually it lowers significantly the monthly mortgage insurance payment. Okay? And then you have single premium mortgage insurance. Did you know that you can buy away mortgage insurance up front without putting 20% down?
Yeah.
Okay, so clients can get rid of mortgage insurance. They don't need to have 20% down. And there's lender paid mortgage insurance, which basically means we're building the mortgage insurance into a higher interest rate. So we're not charging them monthly, but we're building into the interest rate. Yeah, Chris?
What does that look like for if someone wants to buy that down up front? Just kind of a ballpark, is it points, certain cost?
Yeah, good question. So the cost of that is going to depend on where your credit's at currently, and it's also going to depend on how much of a down payment you have up front. So typically with a client where, let's say they have great credit, but they have a small down payment, let's say 3%, you're probably going to be somewhere around the 1.5, about a 1.5 on the loan amount. So we're looking at about $4,500 on a $300,000 loan, thereabouts.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Obviously, the lower the credit score you have, the more expensive it's going to be, but there are clients that we have it's very cheap to buy away. Yeah. Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, is the 4 mortgage insurance options only applicable to conventional loans?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, when you have government loans like FHA or USDA zero down loans, rural housing, those are all fixed cost, and they will never fall off the loan. With conventional, even if you go the monthly route, the mortgage insurance will eventually fall off once you have that 20% equity.
Does the insurance on the government ones, if you have 20% down,
Still have to have it. That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah. And so basically the reason I'm telling you this is because let's say you have Bill walk into your open house, okay, and he's like, well, I'm only qualified for $250. I'm on an FHA loan. Oftentimes with those clients, we find that we can actually put them into a 3% down conventional loan, and we can help them buy their mortgage insurance down or away. I can save, if you even do the split mortgage insurance option, I can usually save you about $100 a month on your mortgage payment. You know what that gives you? It gives about $20,000 to $25,000 more in buying power. So now you have this client walk in approved at $250. You just drop some knowledge on them about the fact of what they do a conventional loan. Did you know that you can buy down your mortgage insurance? Well, great. I can help you with that. I can get your purchase power up another $25,000 to get that house that you want. How about we sit down and we meet and we talk further about this? All of a sudden, you just blow a client's mind, right? We run into this a lot of times. I have a good example, and you used to sell cars. And so in car advertisements, what's the one thing that you always see? What do they advertise?
Monthly payment.
Yeah, 0% interest, 60 months. Get into this car for $3,000 down. They're not talking about leather seats, sunroof, anything like that. It's the financing. And where I feel a lot of realtors miss the mark is that they don't know enough about the lending side to where they don't sell the financing part. And it does a disservice because you can help get more clients. You can get more clients from other people who aren't as knowledgeable. Also, there's people who don't even think they're in the ballpark to be able to purchase a home, and you're giving them that hope that you're able to accomplish that for them if they work with you. You have the tools, you have all the answers. And that's where I feel you can really leverage the lending to be able to sell more homes. Tim.
Okay, so a monthly mortgage insurance premium payment is what's most common.
Yes.
You're going to have your principal interest, your principal, your interest,
Yep.
property tax, escrow, whatever,
Yep.
and mortgage insurance.
Yep.
That's a monthly payment. The split, what's the split?
So split mortgage insurance is where you have, instead of having your monthly, your normal monthly, you're paying a smaller one-time fee up front.
At closing.
Yes.
Okay.
At closing, it's part of the closing cost. We would
Okay.
just add to the closing cost. And What happens is that you will still have monthly mortgage insurance, but it will be significantly reduced.
Okay, so I'm paying it up front,
A
a
little
portion up front.
Yeah.
So that it lowers my monthly
Correct.
requirement. And then the single is when I pay it at closing, the whole amount at
Yep,
closing.
that's
I
right.
pay one premium and then I never have to pay
Never
another
have to pay
premium.
monthly mortgage insurance ever.
Is that at a discount compared to paying it by the month?
Typically, yes. So when you actually do the numbers on a home and you do the analysis, and when we sit down with the client and we show them all these options, we actually have the long-term analysis that we show them for 5 years and 15 years. And generally, this all saves them much more money than by paying the monthly mortgage
Okay,
insurance,
okay.
even with paying the cost up front.
Gotcha.
And this is another thing too, where you can say, hey, let's save you $100 a month on your mortgage payment, and let's see if we can get the seller to pay for it, right? So maybe it's something that they don't even have to pay for. And you can negotiate it for them because you're the expert, you know how to do this, and you can get them $100 less on their mortgage payment for free potentially.
What would be the single payment on like a $350,000 purchase?
For the single, like I was telling Chris, it's basically like about 1.5 points if you have
Okay.
good credit.
So $7,000 maybe?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
$6,000 to $7,000,
Yeah.
which could be covered by seller paid
Which
closing.
could be. Yeah, exactly.
So
Okay.
do you think that, like, if the person has a difference between like 3.5% and 5% and they're deciding what to put down,
Mm-hmm.
probably it could be a better idea to put 3.5% down and use that extra 2% to just pay off the PMI.
Exactly.
And it changes their payment way more significantly
Yes.
rather than putting 5% down.
Exactly. And that's a great point, Sarah, and that's exactly what we do when we sit down with clients and they say, well, I want to put 5% down.
May not be the best option.
It may not be the best option, so what we try to do is try to show them, well, if you think about it this way, maybe you can do the 3% down, and then we can throw the extra money towards buying your mortgage insurance away. And it all goes into the long-term analysis of the client, right? What are your long-term plans? Is this a 5-year house? Is this a 15-year house, right? Those are all things that kind of come into play when we're recommending those kind of things.
Yeah.
And what was the lender paid again?
Lender-paid mortgage insurance is where it's actually built into the interest rate. And so typically that's something for more where you have like 740 plus credit, we would take a look at that. So if you're okay with, if you don't have the money up front necessarily to pay that all up front with a single premium mortgage insurance, what you can do is just build into the rate and you're not gonna have that monthly mortgage insurance. It'll be a little bit higher.
So just a higher percentage rate,
Correct.
percentage interest on the
Interest.
actual loan amount?
That's right.
I
Yeah.
see. And can any of those be rolled into the loan? Any of the PMI?
Yeah.
Can you finance the PMI payment?
So basically with the loan programs that we have is these are all programs that need to be paid, not programs, excuse me, the mortgage insurance costs need to be paid up front. So that is a closing cost. that
By
we
the
have
buyer.
By the buyer.
So the buyer has to come up with cash.
Correct. It
Cannot be
defaults.
rolled into the loan
That's
except
correct.
for the lender paid program with a higher credit score.
Correct. Yep.
So some of the contracts state that the seller will add 3,000 towards closing costs.
Mhm.
Can that number be applied towards the
Absolutely,
insurance?
yeah. So mortgage insurance buy downs, those are all considered closing costs. So if you have a seller concession, those are applied towards closing costs as a whole. And so that's totally fine to put that towards a mortgage insurance buy down for a client. Yeah. But does that kind of make sense for you guys as far as like selling financing, able to give hope, stretch, get them a little more affordability?
I just have one more question. When it says falls off, when you have over 20% equity,
Yeah.
how do you determine the equity at the proper time? Is that just a math calculation, or like if the house appreciated $100,000?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So it's actually based on the sale price of when you bought the home
Only the sale
originally
price, okay.
with that loan. Yeah.
So when you pay up front, you've actually calculated that in when the equity stops, so it's only that much, and then
Mm-hmm.
from that point on, there's,
As far as like calculating the savings.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, calculate the interest, the insurance price.
Yeah.
If you're paying up front, you know what day that 20% equity happens.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do. Yeah. It's all on a amortization schedule, so we know when it falls off. So 80%, when you have 20% equity, so 80% loan to value, that mortgage insurance you can apply to have it dropped off, but it automatically drops off once you have 22% loan to value, technically.
I've never heard of the strategy of having seller paid closing cover PMI.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah.
you learn something new every day.
We do that all the time, and what it does is with clients who are really trying to stretch and they have a dream home, you know, in this scenario, you know, we're talking about he needs $25,000 more dollars. This is something that we do every day with clients, and we just strategize to, you know, be able to get them more buying power, which also, you know, helps you guys as well, because in our scenario, difference in commission is right around here.
So like in that scenario.
Just by giving $25,000 more buying power.
In
for
that
you guys.
scenario, he would have had made a full price offer, asked for seller paid closing costs.
Correct.
Paid the PMI up front. That would have covered the difference probably from 1,570, and with
Yeah.
PMI was probably, you know, 1,800. The seller paid closing costs, paid it up front, got him down to that price he wanted to be at,
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
So what was the 750, was that previous slide?
yeah, so this one here is basically, what I was saying is that from not only the fact that you're getting your client the home that they actually want, there's also the money side of it as well.
Oh, increased because you got them on higher.
Correct.
Do you do the same things for folks that aren't looking to do that? I came in at 250 and the house is at 250. I still want to save. Do you give them that option as well, or only when they want to go higher?
We do it no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah, because we want to make sure, because a lot of people, you know, they want to pay the lowest amount possible for housing, right? And so even if you're not trying to stretch your price point, we're still going to show you ways to save money. Yeah. And so basically what I'm showing you here is I'm comparing different options. So I ran some different scenarios at 275 with 3% down. So you have your principal and interest payment at $1,293, $217 for taxes. I think I took this from an actual property that was for sale at the time. So payment on the monthly mortgage insurance will be about $109. So payment will be $1,619. Payment with the split mortgage insurance in this case, the drop is not so dramatic between split mortgage insurance and monthly if you have good credit. It's more when you have somebody who's in the 720, 680. When you do split mortgage insurance, that easily drops at $100 a month in most cases. And so in this case, it's not such a dramatic drop. But basically, $52 a month, that makes your payment $1,562. And the cost to do that up front in this scenario was $1,818. That was the one-time fee. Okay.
Okay.
And then the single mortgage insurance, you do $0 a month. And in this particular scenario, it costs the client about $5,000 to do. And then their payment's $1,510 a month. Just to kind of illustrate what that would look like. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. And so basically, we're going back to Bill in our scenario here. Turn to a loan officer she trusts named Jim. Jim advised switching Bill to a 3% down conventional loan and buying down the mortgage insurance. So he was able to take the maximum payment Bill was qualified for at $1,570 at $250, and he's basically able to qualify him for $275 a payment of $1,562. Because basically what he was able to do is do the split mortgage insurance. That's not even with him buying it away. That's just paying the little one-time fee up front. That alone got him to the $275 he wanted to be at.
That's crazy.
And
Right?
a smaller payment.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you got the full amount,
It would be less.
you could qualify for even more money.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Like 300,000.
Well, yeah, probably somewhere around there, close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically, like I say, you know, Yolanda looks like a rock star. She had the solution. She knew the people who knew what to do. And basically, we talked about the difference in commissions. So that's just one way that you guys can leverage this. Do you guys have any more questions on that? On the whole, like, buying power and,
It's a pretty good idea.
okay?
So basically, it's the difference between the two is $200 a month. Is that what it was on the next slide? Or
It's about
$100 a
It's
month.
about $100
Okay.
a month, and this is considering somebody who has a good credit score. Like I said, if it's lower, if they have a low credit score, this is going to be much more of a dramatic difference.
Yeah.
Oh, the lower the credit score, the more money they can save on a monthly payment.
Correct.
Ah.
Because mortgage insurance is going to be
Based on your credit score.
more expensive if you have a lower credit
Yeah,
score.
got it.
But the way the mortgage insurance companies work it is if you put that down, that small payment on the split mortgage insurance, we're saving clients tons of money by doing that.
So let's look at this scenario. If you got $5,000 in PMI,
Mhm.
let's look at seller paid closing
Yep.
costs, what's qualified.
Yep.
Is there a limit to how much is allowed percentage of purchase price?
There
or-
is, so with a client who's low down payment like this with a conventional loan, you're gonna be at a limit of 3%.
3%.
Towards seller paid closing costs.
So $5,000, so what was our purchase price, 275?
275.
So $5,000, so 3% would be about $9,000, a little under that, 8,500, 8,200, somewhere in that range. So you got 5,000, might as well go for the full 3% because you got
Yep,
your PMI, you've got title, escrow, appraisal.
yep.
Now, do you guys, are you allowed to use an inspection as part of a seller paid closing cost that qualifies?
For a
Awesome
home
inspection.
inspection, that would be separate outside of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other things would fall under the?
You
that
can buy
could be
down the
seller paid?
rate.
Yeah,
Buy down the
buying,
rate.
buying down the rate, discount points, you can,
So-
appraisal costs.
That's about more cash.
Home
up front.
warranty, that's good.
So it almost makes sense, basically, anytime, unless you're in a competitive situation,
Mhm.
that you could just ask for 3% every time.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah,
Or go 3% over list price
yeah,
and just say, well, I'm going to be giving you list price because at the end of the day, it all. But
Right.
that way, it helps your buyer.
yeah,
Your buyer's going to love you.
it does.
But you set them up for failure or success when you write the offer.
Mhm.
It's not like you can come in as a lender and say, "Oh, you guys, you screwed this up. You could have asked for seller paid closing."
Exactly.
We, as the buyer's rep, as the buyer's agent, need to be in conversation with the lender,
That's
saying,
right.
"Hey, we're going to write an offer. Let's strategize this
Yep.
a little bit here before we get too gung ho."
100%, and that's exactly what is a team effort to make this happen. And so what we have is when we sit down, we meet every client that we pre-approve face to face. And when we sit down with them, we do go over closing costs, and we do mention seller paid closing costs. And we do mention, if you want this, you do need to talk to your realtor up front. And then we'll let you guys know, hey, do they need seller paid closing costs? If so, how much? So we'll be in communication with you on that end, but that's exactly right, Tim. I mean, it's,
Now, when they meet with you, what is the estimate you provide? What's that called?
it's a loan estimate.
Just a loan
It used to
estimate.
be called a good faith estimate, now
Good,
it's
yeah,
just called a
loan
loan
estimate.
estimate.
So they walk out of that meeting with you with a loan estimate in hand. They know what their closing costs are.
100%.
And then I think there's the disconnect where we should, as the agents at that point in time, when we're talking to our client, we should say, "Hey guys, remember that loan estimate that you got from Casey?
Uh-huh.
That amount, we could actually ask the seller to pay all or a portion of that. So let's be mindful of that when we're structuring an offer. How would you guys like to not have to pay any of that? Especially if they're struggling with cash for the down."
So were you saying that, say they made an offer on a house that's, 10 grand less than they can afford, right? So you built in 3% to the purchase price and then asked for
Right.
3% seller paid closing.
Right.
So
To
by
give them a full
doing
price
that,
offer.
it's still, say, a full price offer, but
Right.
then they get to buy down their mortgage insurance.
Right.
Oh, why don't we do that every time?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's something.
As long as it appraises.
Yeah.
that's right, that is
Yeah.
key, yes.
And it's also only works if there's only one offer on the home.
Well, not necessarily. You can win a competitive offer and get seller paid closing. I've heard of that before.
Depends on the buttons that are pushed, I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to some negotiating classes, and sometimes it's not necessarily about who has the best offer, sometimes it's about the intangibles. Are they gonna let me live in the house for a little bit longer, give me more time to pack up, you guys are running this stuff, but.
I would love to see a comparison of Tim's example and the example that you have here. 'Cause I'm not a mathematician, so I'm
Sure.
trying to equate this. Okay, I'm gonna raise the list price,
Uh-huh,
and they pay so much up front, and then I have this payment versus, hey,
Right.
I'm gonna pay my 3,000 up front,
Mhm.
and it's not by the seller, and I pay the same. I'd like to see if that really comes out to the same.
yeah,
For
so
some
what,
reason, it doesn't say it doesn't.
yeah, so if you raise the sale price by about $5,000 extra dollars, let's say, that equates to about $20 to $25 a month more in payment for the client.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I knew it couldn't be.
Oh, in terms of how much our mortgage payment's gonna
Right.
be. Because we're
If you're
raising it.
stacking it
Up,
on
so we put
top,
it down.
if you're
Tell
stacking it
them,
on top.
tell them the rule, the general rule, up top.
$10,000 for every
10, yeah,
$10,000 in price equals how much in a monthly
Oh,
payment?
$50.
About $50.
so when you're doing that, when you have that, that's what I tell all my clients, if they get scared to go over 5 grand, I tell them $10,000, going up $10,000 in your loan amount is about $50 extra a month.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Payment.
you can take that number down and divide it, so if
Yeah,
you're
what's that
going
over 14 years though? That's
Yeah, the average,
People don't care about over 14 years though, because they're not staying in the house for 14
a
years.
lot of times the average life of a mortgage is actually about 3 to 5 years. That's why we show them a
okay.
5-year analysis. The reason for that is because they're gonna be a move-up buyer in about 5 years, or they're gonna refinance
Yeah.
if rates go down, or they're gonna refinance to access equity. And so that's the typical timeline of a mortgage, and I tell everybody that. People have the intention of being in a home 10 to 15 years. I've barely been, I was in one place more than 5 years that I've owned, and I refinanced in there. So that's about right for a lot of the people that we work with. Clients I worked with 3 to 5 years ago are coming back, they're buying new homes, they're refinancing, so it just depends. We rely a lot on the short-term analysis to show them the savings, because that's really more realistic. And so that's more impactful, I think, than looking at like a 10 to 15-year analysis, where it looks better, but it may not be realistic depending on their situation.
I think this makes a lot of sense when you're talking to first-time home buyers, people that are currently renting a home. They're like, wow, we're paying $2,200 a month in rent, but yet well, how much savings do you have for a down payment? Oh, we could probably put together $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can afford the monthly payment. They're doing that already. It's
Yep.
the down payment they don't have the money for, and so they quit. They give up. They say, we'll never be able to afford a house. Then they will just keep paying $2,200 a month in rent. So I think what you're saying is there's some strategies that you could enlighten your client and let them know that, guys, really, there's a possibility we might be able to get you into a home with no money out of pocket.
Mhm.
I mean, that is a possibility.
Yeah, and right now, especially if you own investment properties, you'll see that rents are going up, and that is driving a lot of home buyers back out into the market right now. And one segment of the population that we're seeing is really jumping into the market is retirees. The reason for that is because a lot of them are on fixed income, and the only way that they can control their long-term housing cost is by buying.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, we have some seniors who are getting put out of their apartments and everything, because their rents went up $200 a month, and some of us are like, well, maybe that doesn't make a big difference. But for them, someone who's on a fixed income, it certainly is. And so that's a demographic of the population right now that we're really seeing looking at home ownership.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's actually in the news as a big problem in Bellingham.
yeah,
Rents going up higher and higher, and
yep,
people needing lower income housing. But
yeah.
do you guys have any kind of a program that automatically calculates the total cost if I have a person in an apartment place renting, their lease is gonna come out and say, hey, let's do an analysis to see what you can buy. Do you have that kind of a calculation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can give you a very simple calculation to do that. Essentially, it's.
Looking at what the taxes would be, and I mean,
Oh, yeah.
the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, I can share that with you so that you can calculate it out for somebody. If they're thinking, well, I can't afford a home, it's like, well, okay, well, let me
Very good sales tip.
ask you this. Okay, how much do you make? What are your minimum monthly debt payments, like credit cards, car payments? Okay, and then you can calculate that all out for them and say, yeah, absolutely, you can buy a home. You're making $60,000 a year, you don't have a lot of debt, why are you renting? So that's exactly right, Dave. It's a great sales tool. I agree. Any other questions on this, the mortgage insurance aspect of it? Okay. I wanted to dive in and talk about troubled clients as well, because when you run into a first-time homebuyer demographic, you're typically running into people that have not, in some cases, paid attention to their credit, or they're just in the very beginning stages of this. They don't understand how credit works, and if there's any options out there for them. And so I wanted to touch on that. There's also clients out there that have had bankruptcy, short sale, foreclosure. And so some people out there think that, if they've had a bankruptcy, they can't buy anything for 7 years. That's simply not true. Depending on the type of loan, somebody who's had a bankruptcy, depending on the bankruptcy, anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 years after bankruptcy, they can purchase a home. And so a lot of people don't know that.
Is that information, so let's say that happens, bankruptcy in 3 years. At that point, in comparison to somebody else, they're not gonna have a credit rating, right? Because it's gonna be in bankruptcy style.
They will still have a credit rating, actually, yeah.
So if they have a good credit rating and bankrupt, is it a higher cost for the loan?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It depends on the type of loan. Usually, you're getting into government type loans, like we talked about with FHA. Not, the example we looked at with an FHA loan, that's really, those are good loans. I wasn't trying to show you that it was a bad loan. They do have a purpose for the certain types of clients, like with bankruptcy and things like that, and they're recent past. And so just because you have that situation doesn't mean you're necessarily gonna have a higher cost mortgage or your rate's gonna be astronomically higher. That's not necessarily the case. And so you can still have somebody have these situations occur and we can get them financing within a shorter period of time. And so if you're on the phone with a potential client, don't just say, oh, I had a bankruptcy 5 years ago. So what? You know, you need to start that conversation. Those are conversation starters. And that, again, that's showing like I'm the expert. I know this stuff, right? Leveraging the knowledge of lending to be able to sell more homes. That's what we're really driving at. And also, you know, with a lot of people, we find out that if we can educate you guys a little bit more, you know, that allows us all to have more clients and gives people more hope. And we're able to turn around clients a lot quicker into homes that they never would have thought possible. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who've had foreclosures a few years ago or bankruptcy, and we're just like, yeah, you just need to wait like a few more months and you're good to go. And I've had people literally cry in my office once I told them that. They couldn't believe it. And so that's why we want to talk to you guys about this. So we're going to talk about ways to help. So we're going to talk about some different programs that Caliber has. We have portfolio lending products, which I'm not going to dive too deep into the minutia of what's all involved with like credit scores and stuff, but I will say this, is that we have portfolio programs, and what a portfolio program is Caliber writes the guidelines for it. We fund it with our own money. So we decide the amount of risk we're willing to take, and we will service it. We don't have to follow guidelines of FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. We don't have to do that. And so we have some portfolio programs where as long, you know, you have a minimum credit score of 580, and even if you had a bankruptcy foreclosure yesterday, I can get you a loan now. Okay? Obviously, you know, you've got to be able to have money down. Those kind of things we can do it with as low as 15% down. So there's some different things that we have there. If somebody ran into a rough scenario, we can help them. This is not, these programs that I'm showing you here are not going to be a long-term mortgage. I tell clients that right off the bat. This is not your mortgage for the next 5 to 10 years. This is your mortgage for the next 2 until we can get you into something that's lower cost. But if it's your dream home, it's what you've been looking for, it's what you want, you fit into the criteria, why do we want to say no to that? As long as you fit into that box, right? Because we'll make sure that they can be more affordable down the road. So basically how this helps you, not only from being an expert standpoint, being the expert, but basically, you know, it's getting them into more homes. It's getting more hope to home buyers. It's getting them more homes. And from a financial standpoint, obviously, you went from $0 potentially in income to potentially much more than that, right? Just by having that knowledge that those programs are out there. So I also wanted to touch on credit. So typically with a lot of programs, 580 is going to be the minimum credit score for a lot of loan programs. And so if you have somebody who's in that mid 500, low 500, here's what we will do. A lot of people think, well, my credit's broken, you know, it's beyond repair. And we see people that even just like turn a blind eye to their credit. They know it's bad and they don't want to find out how bad it is. The reality of the situation is with a lot of clients, we can get them up and running, whether it's through telling them what they need to open for credit cards or what they need to pay off, or getting them into credit repair. We can actually get them set as home buyers within 3 to 6 months if they follow the plan. And so even if you have somebody whose credit's broken, I've had clients who've had over $100,000 in collections. 100,000. We had almost $100,000 in collections dropped off their credit within 30 days. They were homeowners in 3.
Wow.
How'd you do that?
Little trick of the trade, a little this, a little, no, it's really just giving a plan for them basically. It's like we work with credit repair companies, and there's specific credit repair companies that we work with that are good at communicating, that follow through on what they say they're going to do, and they're fast. And that's how we do that. We leverage partners to be able to do that. Not all credit repair companies are made equally, just like not all realtors or lenders are made equally. And
So in that situation, $100,000, what was their credit score?
their credit score was, when we started out, remarkably, was in the low 6s. because they had been able to establish some credit and pay and have like some good credit. And so it was surprising that they were in the low sixes. But after we got those collections dropped off, they ended up jumping to mid to higher sixes. Yeah. And so that's what we would do. So just because you guys would be talking to a client that has some credit issues and they have some reservations, you can say, you know, a lot of people, you know, we can get into homes in 3 to 6 months. Like, your credit's not going to be that hard to repair. There are some cases that are absolutely broken, like it's really, really hard. Those people take about a year. But I mean, still, that's not too bad in the grand scheme of things, right? And so I just want to pass that on to you guys. Once you're talking to people, you know, don't just discount them because they don't feel their credit score is worthy and they're not able to look at homeownership. You can quickly turn those around with homeowners. Any questions on that? Cool. That's all I have, guys. Is there any other things that you wanted me to cover as far as loan programs or?
We have quite a few, like, brand new agents.
Yeah, right out the box. Yeah.
So if you just wanna explain, maybe even just the basics of whatever your lending
Sure.
101,
Yeah.
15-minute
Yeah.
Overlap.
conversation.
Yeah, the overarching